born to a normal family. My father was a cocoa buying clerk, and my mother was a farmer and a trader. And I was born in a place called Bososo in the eastern region, nothing special. When I was a kid, I was so truant. My popular name, which my only surviving uncle refers to, is Kofi Baboni, which means Kofi the bad boy. And I was destroying everything in my path and challenging everything in my path as a kid. At age 4, I started drinking beer it accepted my parents. My father caught me siphoning drops of beer from the empty bottles. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to get some beer to drink." And then he said, "Why do you want to drink beer at your age?" I said, "Because you guys drink and you seem happy and you laugh." And he called me to the side and said, "Okay, take this small beer," which was probably about a third or half a glass. It was bitter, but I drank it. And I slept the whole day. And he said, when I woke up, he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "Awful. Will you drink beer again?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why?" I said, "You guys always come back to drink it." So then I also drink it. So my dad then allowed me to drink beer only in his presence. And he got his friends and he poured me a little bit of beer. And I was the operator of the gramophone. You know, there's something, if you've seen it in the history books, you wind it and put a needle on it to play your music. And we come all that way to whatever you have now. Now, my leadership lessons came from 3 people, I say 3 normal people. The first one was my grandmother. Now, my grandmother is a perfect Christian. In fact, if they are saints, I would say that my grandmother is a saint. At the age of 4, 4.5, my grandmother would take me, and I loved spending my holidays only with my grandmother. And she would take me to church and wake up about 4:30 every day and go to church and sing. And my grandmother would be singing and dancing, and I would dance the whole place, and I loved it. So every holiday, I went to my grandmother's place. And of course, he talked about religion and believing in Christ and being good and loving people and all those things. And I'm saying that because what you learn in your infancy stays with you. So really, a lot of people think I'm next to the devil because I don't go to church. But I know within me has been sown the values of Christianity and religion from when I was a kid. Now, the other person who has influenced me is obviously my father. And apart from the beer story, my father was a very interesting character and allowed me a lot of scope, but I held onto the reins. So, for example, when I was in class 6 and we had moved to Kukrantumi, which is my hometown, Kukrantumi in the eastern region, I was the only kid wearing sandals to school. And the first time I went to school with sandals, they jeered at me and said, "Hey, that the bar and this, and look at him." And I felt embarrassed and felt out of place. So I went out of the school and hid my sandals in a banana grove somewhere. Then, from that time, I always hide the sandals and walk to school barefooted like everybody else. And I was quite comfortable. Then one day, for some reason, my mother came to the school and saw me barefooted and said, "Where's your sandals? And we bought sandals for you," and started beating me up. And the teachers were all surprised, like, this guy has never worn sandals. And I went home crying, of course, and my father called me to the side and said, "Why are you not wearing your sandals?" He called me on Hineba. "Why are you not wearing your sandals?" And I said, "Because nobody wears them." He said, "Okay. Now, do you want the whole school to wear sandals or you want the whole school to walk barefooted?" And I said, "Oh, it's good. So if we all wear sandals, then me too, I'll wear." And then he said, "Listen to me carefully. If you want the whole school to wear sandals, wear yours and lead. And I will bet you by the end of the term, some of your colleagues will be wearing sandals." And reluctantly, I would wear the sandals, and they were still cracking jokes at me and all those things. But by the end of the term, we had about 4 kids wearing sandals because they are going home and cried to their parents that they also wanted sandals. The lesson here is that you have to take, if there is a chance and you have what it takes, you take the lead and get others to follow. And I got this very early in my life. The other person who had effect on me early days was obviously my mother. My mother had a patience that I had never seen before. My father left home for about 10 years and came to stay in Accra and was staying with a woman who had 3 kids. My mom still stayed in her home in Kukurantumi, wasn't allowed to come to Accra. One day my dad just came back home with day-old chicks and said, he's come to start a poultry farm at home. And I look at my mom. When my dad wasn't listening, I said, why are you allowing this man to come back to the house? He said, but he's my husband. I said, after all that he's done to you, he must be crazy. She didn't say anything. She says, I will understand. So I was pressurizing her. Why? How? And he says, well, you have to assess yourself in life. And I know if I should leave this marriage, what I have for me is life back in the rural village. And so long as I'm here, recognized as a husband, as a wife, and controlling this property and collecting rent, your father can't do anything he wants. I'm not leaving. So wow. So you haven't heard of divorce and all those. He says it's not. You don't do what everybody does. You have to look at your own situation. Now, to cut the long story short, I started schooling. I went to one of the best schools at the time. It was called Penworth Preparatory School. It was like GIS of today in Accra. It was a Kaneshi. My father was paying something like £27.10, which was ridiculously high. But my father said he would invest in me because he didn't get the education that he think he deserved. So from Penworth, I went to Adesado College, then I went to St. Peter's School for 6th form, then I went to School of Administration, business school, came out with accounting major, 2nd class upper, then I joined the army. Now, the reason why I joined the army was that I realized after 6th form that my life wasn't heading anywhere. I would get up in the morning, I'm supposed to go and teach at Accra Academy National Service. I get there and I still have a heavy hangover from previous nights outing, night clubbing and all those things. And I was gambling and my pay wasn't enough. And I reflected and said, I think I have to do something with my life. And I need a bit of discipline. I told myself. And therefore, when I saw an advert saying recruitment to the Ghana Armed Forces, I applied and joined the army. A lot of things happened. But what I'm telling you from finishing university, I've written 3 books. The first one is called Humble Beginnings, UT Story, Humble Beginnings. That's how I joined the army and came out and started doing business. There's a second book which is called Building a Winning Team, again UT Story, and then the final book is about UT Bank. So what I'm telling you now is in the Building a Winning Team. So I joined the army, and I came out a completely changed person. I was so disciplined, I was responsible, and I was a gentleman, and I had values, and I had leadership skills. Before I miss it, I will tell you that the best training in leadership is in the army. And when I say that, people are thinking because you joined the army, I say no. In the army, the training is such that between the officer and the other rank, there is so much trust that the officer can look at the other rank with bullets flying and say, get up and double 10 paces and dash down, using the other rank to draw bullets that can end his life. But the training is such that he has faith in his officer, that when he gives the order, he doesn't challenge it. The officer also feels that he has the men that he has trained and that they will cover his back and he's going to take them to war and bring them back. There's no other training like that. So the army training changed me completely. I'll give you one example of military training. So I was 23 years old, just commissioned from the Ghana Armed Forces. And I was posted to 5 Battalion. And I was a platoon commander, so I was commanding about 30 people, aging between maybe 21 and 40, 45. And I was the boss. And you have to care for them. You have to be sure that their welfare, their clothing, their feeding, and everything is right. And that's you, the officer. Their physical training, everything is your responsibility. And the military, when you're a leader complete in every sphere. So I was there when this sergeant of mine, who was probably about 40, 45, he came one morning and said, "Sir, I have a big problem, sir. Sir, this one, my life is turning around." And I looked at him and I said, "Sergeant, what's your problem?" Apparently he had beaten his wife, and the wife has threatened to leave. Here was a 23-year-old officer. Even my girlfriend, I didn't know how to manage my girlfriend, and I'm supposed to solve the problem of a sergeant who's probably 40, 45. And I said, "Okay, we'll see what we can do about it." But of course, I had no clue what to do about it. So I went to see my boss, who was the company commander, and I said, "Boss, as for this one, I haven't heard some before, but my whole sergeant wants me to solve a problem because he's going to be the wife." And my commanding officer said, "It's your problem. Don't you know that? Go and solve it." I said, Sir, how? How? That woman is about my auntie. And what am I going to tell my auntie? And I said, "Well, Prince, it's your problem and you have to solve it." I said, "So what do I do?" He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Okay, listen, you just go and visit the woman and see what the problem is." And I said, and then I tell her what? I said, "You go." So I went back, told the sergeant that I'm coming to your house after work. And so after work, I found their place and got there. Those days when you're going to the barracks, even kids like this, they get up and salute you, the officer. And I got to their room in their apartment, and I knocked on the door, and this, my auntie type of woman, came out, saw the officer standing there, and she went on her knees and said, "Sir, I'm so sorry that I've wasted your time for you to come here." And I said, "Yeah, but an issue." He said, No, sir. Once you are here, I promise you I'm not going away. Case solved. And that is how the military leadership is effective, that you are in charge of not just the soldiers, but their families. So when I say that the best one leadership you can find in the army, I'm not joking about it. And that's exactly what propelled me to do the things that I do. Because I didn't get the leadership things to go and fight war. I used it to solve problems for the people in the country, or some of them. Now, so I came out, and I loved the army. Perfect institution. You always know exactly what is expected of you. You know exactly what to do. And it's really easy. For me, it was very easy. If you are disciplined and you go by the orders, and everything is easy. Then, whilst I was in the army, I had a scholarship to go to the UK. And for 1.5 years, I came back a chartered accountant. For those of you who think I'm a small boy, I am 73. Yeah, so, why are you now raising your head? So, I went to UK in 1978 and came back 1979 as a chartered accountant. At the time, I was the only chartered accountant in the whole Ghana Armed Forces. Now, when I got back, I wasn't satisfied with my position, because in the military, colonels occupy the high positions and the junior ranks occupy the low positions. And here I was as a chartered accountant who should be head of the pay corps by qualification, but I was only a paymaster. So I wasn't really happy with the army at the time. But then the worst thing was that there had been, whilst I was in UK, there was a 1979 coup. For those of you who know a bit of history, as for me, I lived it, so I don't see it as history. 79 was the AFRC. That's when Jerry Rawlings came up first. And I was in UK and I heard that generals were shot and killed and Ghana is this. And I thought I wouldn't come back because Ghana is changed. But then soon after that, 3 months later, they handed over to a civilian government. So I came back. That government was the Lehman government, if you like to know about a bit of history. So I got back 79 under the Liman government, and the army had changed completely. Other ranks were no more really respectful of senior officers like that. And the other rank will salute you, the officer, if he feels he likes you, which wasn't the case. So we're trying to see if the army could be changed. Then 1981 was the PNDC coup, December 1981. So 1982, I packed baggage and I said, this is not the army I joined, this is not the army I want to belong to. Now, I left in 1982, and this part is crucial. I went back to UK because I'd gone to school there. And I want to see a friend of mine, my closest friend, who's a white guy. And I said, my country is burning, and I need to come and get some job here. I said, well, so we looked around, and he got me a job in a town called Salisbury, a bit like a bookkeeping job. But he was an accountant in London. So I looked at Derek, I said, Derek, I was smarter than you. How come you are a London accountant? And then this is all the job you can find for me. He said, stop your nonsense. You are black, your papers are not correct, and we're finding a job for you. You either take it or leave it. And I said, okay, you should keep the job. I'll come to Ghana and pack up. Now, I asked myself, why should I be locked up in some town, Salisbury, back or beyond in the UK? Is that all that I can do for myself? I'm sure by this time, if I'd accepted, I would have been married to some old, lousy-looking white woman, or I'll probably be dead. So I didn't take it. Then I came to Ghana, and I traveled to Nigeria, because those days a lot of Ghanaian lecturers and graduates were in Nigeria. That's about 1982. And when I got there, what I realized was they were happy. They were paid quite enough. In the evenings, they go and have pepper soup and goat head and Guinness. And they had a lot of fun. So they invited me, and I enjoyed it for about 3 days. And I got a job to go and teach in Zaria. And I said, so I should leave Ghana and come to Zaria just for pepper soup and goat head, and then what? So again, I shelved it. Then I asked myself this question. What is my purpose in life? And I said, my purpose, and for what reason God put me here, is that I should do something, contribute something to this world, as in impact some people's lives. Because we've all been created. And the only reason why a system or anyone will create something is because the creator is expecting that you add something to his world or her world. So then I told myself that, listen, if there's a creator who has created me and put me in Kukrantumi and Ghana, then his purpose for me must be in Ghana. And therefore, I'm not going anywhere again. If you are going somewhere to better yourself and build your capacities so that you come back and use it to help in the area where the Creator put you, then it's all right. But if you are going forever, at least you've confused the Creator. Because now he has to find something else for you to do wherever you've surged into. You understand what I'm saying? Do I have to repeat it? Hello? Are you with me? So again, what I'm saying is that my philosophy in life is that everyone or everything that exists must have been created. Everything that exists must have been created. Certainly this was created, the table was created, that was created. Each one of us were created. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Right? The next question is, why would something be created? Something will be created means that there must be a creator who is creating that thing. So I believe in God completely, that there's a system, God for most Christians, that has created us. Now the next question is, why would anyone create something? And I'm saying, you create something because you think there's a lapse and this thing you are creating can fill that lapse. Or otherwise, there's a purpose for your creation. So the question I asked myself was, if there's a purpose for my creation, and then the Creator put me in Ghana, then my purpose must be in Ghana. Therefore, I stayed. So for most of you who want to finish school and run away, and for Ghana is hard and things like that, think again. There are so many problems in the country, so many anywhere you pass. Look at the potholes, look at the bad behavior, look at all those things, look at bad business, look at bad leadership. And it behoves on us to solve those problems. That is why God put us here. Now to move on, so I stayed. And I didn't look for any job. And I became a businessman by default. My next door neighbor was a businessman. I didn't have a job. I'd left the army. So if he's going out, I'll follow him and we'll go and talk business. And I did this kind of business for about 15 years. In the 15 years, I learned the mindset of the Ghanaian businessman. I learned Ghanaian businesses as in SME. And I did all kinds of businesses. I did buy and sell. I did wine selling. I did ceramic selling. I did electrical construction. I did civil construction. I did timber business. I did air conditioning. I did almost everything. I did oil, transport, 15 years. Now, one thing I never lost was my values. So my partners, business partners, what happened was, if we're going to have a discussion, business discussion, or going to seek a business, they will tell me that they will take me along only if I'm not going to talk. Because the soldier man who comes up, poor, and I pour all the facts. And business in Ghana is not supposed to be about the facts. It's about how you con people and take them along. So I'll be sitting in the business meeting, with my partners, and what they are telling the other side, I'm really shocked. But that's how business was supposed to be done. And I was successful with some of the businesses, and I failed in a lot of them. But what really put me in the path of UT is this. So anytime I get a good business, of course, the biggest problem was funding. And we'll go around, the banks and people and this, we don't find the money, and the business goes. I would have been a millionaire long ago if funding was easy to come by. Now, one day, I took an application to my bankers for the equivalent of $20,000 to buy a set of air conditioners and supply and take my money and pay the bank loan. And after 2 months of up and down, go and come, we're trying to help you, the bank finally called me and said they had approved my facility. So I was excited and I rushed there, and they told me that they had approved the equivalent of $3,000. Now, certainly $3,000 couldn't do anything about the business. They are taking my house, business plan, and everything. And the soldier was saying me at the time, so I banged on their counter, jumped over the counter, and closed my accounts that day. I thought, if you come close to me, I'll slap you and all sorts of things. Then I went home, dejected. And I'm someone who reflects on the day's activities when I go to bed. So I was reflecting on this bad day's activities. And something said, this has been the story with the Ghanaian banks. Now you are a chartered accountant, you've been to school administration, you have experience in business and all that. So why don't you change the culture of lending? And that's one thing you have to take in you. When you are qualified or have the capacity to do something and you see a lapse, it is your call to do something about it. Let me repeat. We're all here to serve a purpose. Now, when you have built certain capacities and knowledge and expertise, and you see something going really wrong, and you know that you have what it takes to correct it, it is your call. Be courageous and make a move. So with me, I decided the next day I went to Bank of Ghana, got the requirements, and registered a non-bank financial institution called Unique Trust Financial Services. Now the name was simple. I said I was going to lend not on all the lengthy requirements and processes, but if I have special trust in you, I'll give you the money. I was that naive at this time. But that's how I started lending. And we had a lot of problems. And therefore, we started very, very small. We started with one room, with one table, with no curtains, no toilet in Kantamanto, if you know that part of Accra. And it was very hard. But again, the clue here, which is something you keep in mind, if you want to do business, think about starting small. Because in this world, God himself starts everything small. A big tree starts with a seed. You guys were born very feeble. In actual fact, you're even from a sperm, which you can't even see. And then you grow into what you are. So don't start business by saying, I want to do it big and things. Because when you start small and you fall, you can pick yourself up and learn your lessons. If you start big and you're able to start big and you fall, it's complete disaster. So we started that small. Capital that we had was about 20,000, 15,000, including the value of my car, which I forced into the capital of the company. Now, to cut a long story short, this company that we started, I started with 3 people. None of them had a good qualification. I was the one with degree and chartered accountant and all that. We hustled and grew this business slowly, and from a staff of 3, by 2012, and we started in 1997, so within a period of 15 years, we had grown the company into a conglomerate with UT Financial Services, UT Bank, UT Nigeria, UT South Africa, UT Properties, UT Logistics, UT Private Securities, and others. And we're employing directly over 2,500 people paid every month by this same institution that I headed. And of course, along the achievements and the development were the recognitions as Ghana's Marketing Man of the Year, Moses Fedesiu, blah, 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 Johnny Walker, and all those things. Now, the issue is, how do you grow a company or lead a company from where we started to where we got to? And I'll break and ask you a very simple question. What do you think is the most important thing in this world? Anybody? What do you think is the most important thing in this world? Give it a shot. Yes? Time. Perfect. I'm happy that the first answer is time. You see, if you underestimate time, you underestimate your whole being. Your life is defined by the time you have in this world. Every living thing is defined by the amount of time they have. That's the fundamental resource that you have. And, for example, if you say somebody is dead, and therefore he or she is no more, it means their time is finished. And interestingly enough, in Africa, and that's a different topic, we do not respect time. We all know that. We take time for granted. If you like go to a village and from nowhere, hey, and sit down and do this, and they're calling your uncle to come and see you, and people just waste time. And therefore we've lost it. And that is why we've lost it. Because time is all that we have. And your time is therefore, simply put, your life. And your life is your time. And people say time is money. If time is money, it means money is time. Because money is what you get by using your time, or the value of your time, how you use your time gives you the money. In actual fact, money is equal to time. I prefer to time is money. Because sometimes you want to just lie down and relax. That is no money. But every money you see is time potentially. And when you are not well, you use your money to get back some time. Or you can give your money to get somebody else back the time. Now, if you appreciate time, that it is all that you have, and it is your being, it's your life, And so does it apply, and the same does it apply to every human being. You're on the path to success. Now, you know, the early developers, one thing that they did is that in every town or village, the tallest building, mostly the church, the spa, they put a clock on it. And what it means is, see your life taken away. It's not time taken away. Your life is taken away. And therefore, you have to be particular about time. Now, in business, and I'm going to tell you in very simple terms, in business and in leadership, remember that every leader, every human being, in actual every living thing, but let's limit it to human being, every living thing wants two things. They want to save time. It's in our DNA. You don't have to ask. Every human being wants to save time. You see how people drive around and how people hustle. If you waste somebody's time, they are mad and things. That every human being wants to save time. Why? Because if you save time, you can do more with the rest of your time. If somebody wastes your time, he's wasting your life. So the other thing that people want is that they want good time. They want good feeling, good vibes, and that's a good time. So they want to save time and they want good time. Finished. In leadership, in business especially, when you see that you want to go into a business, ask yourself these two questions. Can I deliver in a more timely manner than the competition? That's the first question. If you are going to do the same thing and with the same time, you have no business. And then ask, can I also make people feel better than the current service or product? If you're going to provide the same thing, then don't waste your time. Now, how many of you had the UT alone in 48 hours? Anybody had it? Okay, yeah. So what made UT's story what it was is that we came with a process where we processed loans for SME as an individual within 48 hours. Now, I told you I had to wait 2 months plus to be refused a loan virtually. And we came and revolutionized the loan delivery service that we're doing loans for SMEs, which were the riskier side of the market, in 48 hours. And therefore, we're way ahead of the pack. That's how come we grew. From 1997, we were worth less than $20,000. By 2008, that's 11 years' time, when we took UT Financial Service to the stock exchange, it was worth $90 million. And that's how you grow wealth, by making sure you solve people's time or save people time and also give them good time. Now, good time is a bit more extended, a bit more complicated, because it depends on the individual. But simple things like know people's names, smile to them, let them feel good that they are in your presence. You know, you go to some shops and you enter the shop and the owner of the shop is sitting there probably painting her fingers and she's looking at you because maybe you are not well dressed, and you watch her and then you go away. Now, just suppose that's you go into a shop, oh, hello, how are you? Because you see, the person is come to give you possible customer. He's walked into your shop. Let them feel good. And don't also waste their time unnecessarily. If they want service, you give them the service. These are the only two things. But here in Africa, we do not respect time, and we do not even respect each other. And that's why we have a problem. If you can put yourself to it, anything that you want to do, ask yourself, how do I save people's time? That includes your time. And then how do I make people feel good or feel better about themselves? If you can answer these positively, you're a winner. And at UT, that's exactly what we did. Now, how do you do that? You know, let me say that for most of us, our upbringing is not the right type of upbringing. And in this country, we have a very toxic environment because our systems, natural systems or scientific systems do not work. It depends on whom you know. Sometimes you find that people have made maybe aggregate 20, they go and pay, or they have connections, and they get into schools, and some people have made 10. Can't get into schools because they cannot pay or they don't have the right connection. And things are getting worse in this country, whether you like it or not. I'm putting it to you that this country is heading in the wrong direction. When I took my common entrance, and this was 1964. After common entrance, you have your address, and my address was P.O. Box 32, Kukrantumi. And after the results were announced, that the results had come, I took my post office box, Kukrantumi post office box, opened the box. Here was my admission to Adesado College. I didn't know what Adesado College was. And I got somebody, Fanti man in Kukrantumi, to take me to Adesado College. 5 years later, O-level, P.O. Box 32, Kukrantumi. And I picked my letter, admitted me to sixth form. 2 years later, P.O. Box 32. I took my admission letter to University of Ghana. Now your time. With improved technology, email, WhatsApp, whatever, nobody's going to write to you. So this is how difficult and how we've skewed life. So when you are leading people, realize that their mindset is not right. The mindset that we have is you should know someone before you can get a position. You should know someone before you are called to do something. And people bring this notion into companies and into other institutions. So what you have to do is to create a different culture wherever you find yourself as a leader. That's what I did. Create a different culture. And the culture embodies the kind of values, what your beliefs are. Now, at UT, everyone felt respected because I ensured that everybody matters, and therefore everybody felt free. And you have to lead by example. What do I mean? To lead by example means either the policies are set or you make sure the policies are set and you live the policies, as in you subordinate yourself to the policies. The first thing is you have to lead by example. And I find that in Ghana and Africa, the leader is different. What he says you're not supposed to do, he can do it or she can do it. Now, if you have a system like that, it can never work. I will tell you a very funny story. So, at UT, when we were about maybe 50 in number, and I heard that some people were fighting over some women and other things. So I investigated and realized that there was one lady that had slept with about 3 men in the company. And I called her and I made her confess. And I sacked her. And my HR head came and said, Chief, but how can you sack her? I said, she's spoiling my company. I said, but there's no policy like that. It's her own body that she used. I said, not in my company. And I was wild. And I said, so you want her to be here? He says, well, if it was a policy, then I can understand. Because you say you believe in policies. But there's no policy about sleeping with someone. I said, go and put a policy in HR, add it to HR policy. So she did it, and then she came to me and said, sir, you still have to reinstate the lady because what happened was before the policy. And I had to agree that there was no policy and that it was just me using my powers. Now, the funny thing is that it meant that I could not sleep or have a relationship with any UT staff because the idea was that, and how we catch it was that we are a family as UT. And as family people, you cannot sleep with each other because it's incest. And that if you do it, you'll be sacked. And my head of HR said, Chief, how will you catch them when they are doing it? I said, don't worry, I'm an expert in it. I will see. Then, as a matter of fact, I sacked about 6 people based on circumstantial evidence. But the worst part was that UT then grew, and we had maybe about 1,000 beautiful women of all types. That's when I regretted about the law. It meant that I couldn't sleep with any of them. And I didn't. And I tell everybody that I can put my hand up and say, I never ever slept with any UT staff. But that's something that you have to do as a leader. It doesn't matter what. Once you put in the policy, you must abide by it. Now, what are the values that we use to grow this company? First value is respect. Respect for everybody. Now, the way you implement respect is that you put rules, regulations, policies in place, and police that policy and regulations. Police it at the head. You police it. One, you subordinate yourself to it and make sure that anybody who really overcomes that or goes against it is sanctioned as per the policy. It doesn't matter whether it's your brother or your uncle or whatever. Because I sacked my brother, I sacked one of my directors who had been my friend from university. I sacked anybody. And then my staff would say, Chief, sometimes you are laughing with somebody in the morning, but afternoon you sack the person. And I said, no, I've never sacked anybody before. And they all started laughing. They said, oh, how? And I said, true. I mean, we have bound ourselves with these policies and laws, that this is what defines us. So if you go against it, then you don't want to be part of us. And if the sanction is you have to go home, you go home. Now, what I'm saying, don't take it lightly, because when I sacked my brother, of course, he went home. I even went to discuss his next job with him, how I will help him to set up a job and help him to set up a job. My sister didn't talk to me. My uncle didn't talk to me. My chief in my village didn't talk to me. All sorts of people. Finally, the Busiapeni came and said, Kofi, what you've done is against the family, and you are employing outsiders, and your own blood and your brother, his kids can't go to school, and his kids are your kids. I said, I'll pay his kids' school fees. And I paid. They said, no, it's not enough. And I said, okay, then I'll tell you something. Abusiano, take me out. And of course, they couldn't take me out because I was the most successful in the Abusiano. But it doesn't come easy. You must be strong to make sure that you keep those policies there. You will be laughing about it, but really it's very dangerous. So first thing is respect for all. Respect for all means the policies and the laws and the regulations that you put in place to guide that institution must be held strong and must be applied, especially with the sanctions. The problem we have in Ghana is because our laws are not working. Somebody does something, he goes to see some chief or some pastor, and the case make bazaar. How can this country develop? It cannot. You need somebody who loves the people and say, this is where we're going. Now, the second thing is you must be a person of integrity. You have to be a person of integrity. When you say yes, it's yes. You don't lie. You look at people in the face and tell them exactly what it is. Because when you lie, you cause negative impact. You put people on the wrong path. You must actually look at people in the face and tell them exactly what it is. And therefore, you have the right impact, they have the right information to actually mold their lives and move forward. The third, you must be a professional. Be good at what you are doing. So you learn, you invest in it, you build capacity so that you know the stuff and you know what to do to get to the end. So be a professional at all times. I won't go through everything, but finally, you must be God-fearing. You must have a faith and believe that you're here for a purpose. And you're here to make sure that you impact this world positively with your life. I hope you guys are with me. Okay. So, the final thing I would say, and it's a repetition of what I said earlier, because I think the important thing is there's Q&A, right? so I can answer specific things that are sitting on your minds as future leaders. When UT made all that it made and became as popular as and everything, in 2015, no, before that, in 2010, we decided to buy a bank. I'm trying to cut it short. So we decided to buy a bank, and we bought, for a local company, we bought a foreign bank that was operating in Ghana. It was unheard of how a Kukurantumi boy can build an institution that is big enough and can buy a foreign bank and become a bank or own a bank. Now, all these things I did with absolutely no connections, and the system didn't like it. I didn't have a pastor, powerful pastor. I didn't have any politician on my back. I didn't have any powerful chiefs behind me. It was just me marching forward and creating news. And this system doesn't like it. So we bought the bank, but then our plans started after we bought the bank. And I wish you would read the third book, which goes through the stages. Now, when we bought the bank, and every company is actually defined, or its success or failure depends on its culture. And we had a great culture. That's how come we grew. And we were then about 200 as in UT Financial Service. And then we bought a bank that was failing. That's why we could buy it. And the bank also has staff of about 200 thereabouts. And we couldn't keep the bank because Bank of Ghana raised the minimum capital, and so on and so forth. So we decided to merge the bank and UT Financial Services. Now, when we merged, we have UT Financial Services with a great culture, marching forward. And then we got UT Bank, the bank was called BPI Bank, which we later on changed to UT Bank. And they had a very nasty culture. It was owned by Malaysians. They didn't respect the Ghanaians. They told them anything. The Ghanaians had a lot of confidence in themselves. And we merged these two entities. That was the beginning of our problem. If anybody says, what was it? Tell them Kofi Amoabeng told us. So immediately the culture that we had, which was rich, was diluted by these 200 people. Some of them were thieves. Some of them they had lost hope in their company. We knew it, and then we found we had an agenda to resolve the two cultures coming together, but it wasn't deep enough. Not only did we have two cultures coming together, because there were no bankers, as in top brass bankers, in the bank that we acquired, we had to now bring in top-class bankers. So head of banking operations, head of treasury, head of risk, head of compliance, head of that, and they all came from different banks. Access Bank, Standard Chartered, UBA, name it, some of them. And they came to sit as head of departments under me. Each one has brought his own culture. Some were raw thieves who were run away from the bank that they were, and they brought the stealing. So what really was the biggest issue is that the culture, which was rich, which was sustaining us, got diluted completely to the point where even my UT staff, whom I could trust, decided that if these people have come, they are stealing, then we will steal. And I tell you, when it dawned on me that that's where we got into, I knew that the story is not going to get any better. So we started having loans not being paid as it used to be. And in 2015, we did a restructuring plan, and I decided that I think I've been at the head of affairs for too long, and therefore I should step down. My board opposed it, but I insisted that you can look everywhere and blame everyone, but you must also take the blame yourself. And therefore I stepped down at 2015 as the CEO of UT Bank. And then in 2017, I was in my village, Kukurantumi, morning time with my coffee, watching CNN. And I took my phone later on, and I had a lot of missed calls, about 63 of them. And I said, no, something is wrong. And I called my daughter and I said, why is everyone looking for me? And he said, you haven't listened to the news? I said, no. He said, well, the government said they have collapsed UT Bank. And I said, okay. And I got ready and drove back to Accra. As Prof said, the rest is history. Now, what followed, which is another trait as a leader you must have, is you have to be resilient. Because people started calling, notwithstanding all the achievements that we made and what I headed, people were calling us thieves, directors of banks who have stolen money. That includes yours truly. And as I stand here, I'm still in court. I've been in court for 7 years. But notwithstanding that, I told myself, God used me to do all these things, and he must know why this thing should come to an end at this time. And I said, what do I still have in me to give back to the system? And I said, well, I have my experiences to start, because what I've gone through will be lessons for the younger generation. That's why I wrote the 3 books. UT Story, Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. Then I said, the biggest problem we have in Ghana and Africa is the leadership mindset. Our leaders don't have the right mindset. Our people don't have the right mindset. But the people can be changed by the leader. So if we should get good leaders at various stages, we have a chance to change the narrative. So then I've devoted the rest of my life, and only God knows with what and what else, to form the Kofi Amoabeng Leadership Foundation, which is with a vision of having leaders with revolutionized mindset, different mindset. And we're converting young leaders at a time. We have even a cohort. We now graduated the second cohort. A cohort, they go for military training, then they go for boot camps, and I'm with them all the way. And then we have mentoring. We are allocated them with mentors, one-on-one mentors, and a whole lot of things that we do for them. And the whole story of my life is not ended yet. I think I just begun. God took me through all those experiences to be successful and to give me a name and for people to listen to what I'm saying. And I think I'm now on the right path of creating leaders with a different mindset. Because that's the only thing that can give hope a chance. Thank you very much.
Let's clap again for him. I keep saying that people and time will teach you more than all the books in the world can teach you. And his story is so inspiring. Last Monday, I had Joy Prime come into my office to interview me for 2 hours about my life. And if I listen to his life, I'm inspired. And I know you've also been inspired by such life. People's life should teach you lessons, because life is the best teacher. Life doesn't talk to us, it pushes us around until we pick something from that floor. So the floor is opened for questions. Let's take about 3-4 questions. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you raise your hand first. Yes. Can you give him the mic? Pass it.
Hello. Hello, my name is Elikem. I'm a computer science student. So my question is, as a leader, how do you transmit your enthusiasm and ambition to your employees and team?
Can you please repeat?
So yeah, how do you transmit your enthusiasm and vision to your employees and team?
Yeah, I think I did mention leadership by example, right? Now, of course, the time is limited, but if you relate to the military training that I had, there are a lot of things that I did which made people feel loved, respected, and therefore give of their best. For example, I had what we call PK 101. I met every staff member of mine once a year, one-on-one, just me and the person. And we talked about the family, the kids, the school the kids are going to, career development, the office, and everything and all. And I took action to change it or correct it if I had some contribution to make. And I gave them the freedom. I had an open policy literally open, as my door was not ever closed. And if there's nobody in that office, you walk through. In fact, if there's a client even in my office, they come and say, Chief, do I go or... And I say, come and let's solve it. And then we talk and then you go away. Because when you're doing loans for 48 hours, you have to really infect them in a way that they align with the mission. And I had my telephone number in every reception of UT branch. You see, please, if you are dissatisfied, call the CEO on this number, and it is this phone. The only funny thing about that is that they didn't believe it was my number, so not many people called me. They didn't think any CEO would leave their number there. But I'm talking about openness to your staff, respecting them, loving and caring for them. And let me tell you something. This brings to mind. There was a receptionist that we had employed, and also share information. So every Monday we will go through information, those who owe us, those who are difficult for us to find, those that we cannot find, and all those things. And I shared it with everybody in the company on Monday mornings. A receptionist of UT went to Makola on her normal thing, saw one of the guys that we had mentioned, he had defaulted and we couldn't find him. And she got the police officer to arrest the guy and bring him to the office. It's not her business. She's a receptionist, but she turned herself into a loan monitoring officer or whatever you want to call it. Got the client right because she could identify with us to the point where she knows that if people default, then her future is at stake. So to sum it up, love your people, care for them, have an open policy, let them feel free, let them feel that they are part of it. We used to have strategy sessions. When we were small, everyone sat in the strategy session. And we all came up with what our vision is and what our mission should be. But most people, you can't even talk to your CEO. He's always in a meeting. He's traveling. He's doing this. Even going to I know an office. I said I'll go and have a look. They said there are 2 staircases going up. Staircase, not lift. The executive use one and the others use the other. So then you are dividing the company. Now, when I was CEO at UT, when I park my car and I'm going inside the lift, the women will all rush into the lift so they come and hug me and we'll all go up the stairs. Sometimes the hugging, some of it was a bit difficult, but... So I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, so you said... sorry. So you were talking about the time you had to step down as the CEO of UT Bank. I wanted to ask, do you feel like, because I feel like you were really the driving force of the company, like while you were still the head. I wanted to ask, do you think that form of collapse or that kind of the storm that hit UT Bank for such things to happen, do you feel like you could have directed it towards a different way or gotten different results if you would have still been CEO?
I don't think okay, so when I resigned in 2015, the bank was closed by the government in 2017. That's almost 2 years later. Now, the reason why I stepped down was to step down and get someone with a new pair of eyes, a new energy, and come and correct whatever was wrong. But unfortunately, they couldn't do it. So for 2 years after I left, then the bank went down. I think the question is, if I stayed, would the story have been different? I don't know. But I thought by sacrificing myself, I was given the best possible chance at reconstruction. Okay? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hashmi, and my question is, as a leader, how flexible should you be in terms of boundaries? How flexible should you be in terms of boundaries, the boundaries you set with your team members?
If you ask me, there's no flexibility. I used to love my people, hug them, do whatever, but if you do something wrong, there's a investigation team, discipline committee, and the process is there. And there's no flexibility. Because if you want to be flexible, and because you are beautiful, make sure, give a warning, and for somebody they should go home, you are sowing some dangerous seeds. And you know, you want to be I believe that if you want to be a powerful leader, it's not in you being a dictator. It's in you putting the right laws in place and guiding them. Guide the system. And I tell people that when it comes to policies and actions that I take, I'm like a linesman. Linesmen, they don't look at faces, so they look at the line and maybe the legs and the shoulders, and as soon as he crosses, he raises the flag up. Before he will know that it was Julius or whatever, are you or somebody. But the thing is, offside is offside. Right? So I will not entertain flexibility at all. Now, I think the question you want to ask is, if the person is related to you or has some kind of connections and things like that, can you treat them differently? My warning to people is that if you're going to hire someone who has got a bit of clout or something or related to you, ask yourself this question. If this guy commits an offense and I have to sack him or her, can I sack him? If the answer is you are not sure, don't hire the person. You should only hire people that you know you can fire. If you cannot fire them, don't hire them. Don't bring them at all to start giving you problems. I hope you understand. Yeah. But flexibility, be nice, be open, be everything, love them. But the institutions that we are in have their laws and policies that will ensure that they are sustainable and they serve the purpose for which they are supposed to serve. And you do not compromise on it, but enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
My name is Philip Carol Aqua, and then throughout this whole session, you've spoken a lot about policies and certain stringent rules that should be followed. What are some examples of these rules that you believe are best in ensuring a healthy working space for people?
Well, I think every company has its own peculiar rules. But let me quickly say that you are in the business to be successful, right? And there are basically 4 success factors. So 4 factors that will ensure that the company is successful. One is the customers, let's say. How do you get customers and maintain them and grow the customer base and referrals? So you must have rules about how to relate to your customers. The second is about the products and the processes. You must have rules as to how you make your products and the process that you use to get them together and to use them to deliver, packaging and all. You should have rules about them. Then there's also the people as in the staff. You must have rules that protect the culture, behavior of the people. Because if they don't have the culture and they don't have the values, and if the values fail, then the company will fail. And of course, there's a 4th one, you must be profitable. So you cannot pilfer, you must not waste, you must not do all those things. So if you look at the 4 success factors, the company must draft rules and policies to protect them. Because if they should fail, then the company should fail. You okay? Thank you.
I'm Abdul Latif Usman. So first of all, I will thank you for the great words you've given to us. The question I just have, as a young growing politician in Ghana, an academic city as...
Is this a politician?
Yes, yeah. So the question I have is that my story is aligned to your story. As I'm growing, I also face what you face. But I've seen that your generation and my generation is very different. My generation, I've seen young boys and girls having big money, like now you can sit and use your phone for money. So I've seen that this is distracting my life as a young guy. I always see myself, how can I be 23 and I don't have a car, and I see 18-year-old guy having a very big mansion. So the question I just have for you is, as a young guy who wants to be a leader, what advice are you having for me so that I'll also be a leader, not a spectator? Thank you very much.
A very, very good question. Very good question. Now, the summary of what you said is that Ghana is a failing country. We are failing. And we are failing because our institutions are not working, our laws are not working. In fact, for me, if you ask me, the biggest sector that has failed and therefore we are in this hell is actually the judiciary. And the judiciary, because that's always your last resort. If somebody takes your land, somebody cheats you, somebody kills you, somebody does that, it's the judiciary. And unfortunately, we've politicized it. It's become corrupt. That is why people are getting away with all the things that you see. Because in any civilized country, even when they see you drive a good car, you must justify how you came by the car. Now, to your question, I think what the question is, with what is happening, how can you as an up-and-coming leader cause a change? Now, it's very tricky, delicate balance. If you do not follow the masses, they will even take you out of it. They will sack you, because when we are sharing money and you come and say, it was the name of Allah and you don't have to do this, they won't call you or they will sack you. So you are in catch-22. What you have to do, and what I did, my scholars, the biggest fear I have for them is that after I've pumped them up with values and doing what is right and so forth, they go back into this toxic system. So even though they know all the values, I don't think they can practice it. You can't go and tell your boss that I went to Amoabeng scholar and he says you shouldn't do A and B. They will sack you. So I got a brain aspect to actually, and this is what I said, how do you train somebody and give him the right values and he's able to keep the values in some kind of compartment and seemingly go along with the nonsense and wait for their turn to when they become a leader so that they can cause a change. Keep the values and wait, go with the flow. Then when you get there, you can change it. There's one leader that comes to mind, and that's Gorbachev. Gorbachev was in the political bureau. His parents he didn't believe in communism, but nobody knew he didn't believe in communism. And then when he became president of Russia, he dismantled it. So to my point, even me, when I'm stopped by the police, and I'm an officer, and I have values, and I know that 10 cities will shorten the problem, I give them 10 cities or 20 cities. Because if you don't, this corrupt policeman can ask you to go to court and go to Accra and come back to court just because you didn't give them 20 cities. So, direct answer, know the system. The ones that you can't really put yourself to, find a way of avoiding them. But flow with the system, knowing and keeping the faith that when finally you become a leader, you will change it because it's not good. God help you.
Yeah. Yeah, good afternoon, Captain. My name is Daniel. My question for you is, you made mention during your speech that you moved into the army, but then you really didn't know what to do with your life. So I wanted to know, you switched from the army to the chartered accountant. Was it the
Chartered accountant in the army. So when I left the army, I was a chartered accountant. I had my degrees and everything.
Okay.
But there were no jobs at the time.
Okay. Because I wanted to know how that influenced the switch from,
Well, but the premise is wrong, so I don't know how to answer it.
Okay. All right, then
Okay,
then that's
thank you.
fine.
All right, Eric, can you please give the mic?
Thank you, Captain. Nice to see you. My name is Eric. I'm the university librarian. Listening to you, in fact, I had to come down from the office to see you because I've been listening to you on TV for a long time. Now, you've shared hope. You've encouraged this youth and all of us not to desert this country. You've also mentioned that the system is toxic. It's poisonous. You've shared culture. There's so much difficulty. To make it simple, do you yourself, looking at having to get yourself out of the way sometimes by giving 20 Ghana cedis, do you have hope? And if you do, how are you going to make the youth sitting here being trained by ACity to be hopeful? And how do we make that hope real when they become leaders? Thank you.
We are in a hopeless situation, I agree. But you can't give up hope, because if you give up hope, then you shouldn't live. So long as you live, you must have some hope. And specifically what I'm doing, it's like, yes, the way things are going, there's no hope. But I can't throw my hands up in the air. So I need to do something for me to sleep better and saying I'm changing some lives. That is why I set up the Kofi Amoabeng Leadership Foundation. And the thing is, people ask me, Kofi, but you say you don't believe that there's hope and all those. Why are you doing this? And I said, well, in some aspect, it's like casting your bread upon the waters. For Ghana to have a chance, just a slight chance, and to give hope, a slight chance, when God decides to change our destiny, God will need those kind of people. And if there's none in the system, whom is he going to choose? So at least I create some of the system, some people, and put them in the system, like putting your bread upon the waters. If the chance comes, maybe one or two of them will fall in the right places. Then also something that I think about, which is very funny and almost hopeless, is a proverb which says, it's an account, Insua ebe fameno menumbi. It's a very funny proverb. It means you don't give up, you fight. You know the river is going to take you away, but you drink some and fight the river before you go. So what I'm doing now, if nothing at all, I'm trying to fight desperately to put some good leaders in the system, just in case. Thank you.
Let's give it up for him again, Captain. So Gandhi put it right. One day I will tell you the story of Gandhi and Abraham Lincoln, those who fought the system, who were assassinated, they were killed. And even after death, they are still the best leaders their countries have ever produced. So I like his spirit. Never give up. Do whatever it takes. Magufuli did that in Tanzania. Because you fight leadership from within, not from without. And you know what? COVID took Magufuli away. So Captain has written a lot of books, and we have here the UT Bank Story, Volume 3, Faithful Decisions. So it is 200 Ghana cedis. We also have this one, the UT Story, Volume 1, Humble Beginnings, another 200 cedis.
This one sells for 200. This one sells for 300. But as students, I could have even have given some to some of you free, but I wouldn't. If you don't have your skin in the game, you think you don't find it worthy. That is why to have this, and this I think you must have, you pay 100 cedis. If you pay 100 cedis, I know that you will read it. Otherwise, anybody will want to decorate their room and say, I have the book, and they will never read it. Especially on social media, they are watching porno and things. They won't read.
And they pay for the data. Thank you. So once we finish with the presentations, he'll be here. If you buy a copy, then he will autograph it for you, he will sign for you. And Captain, on behalf of ACity University, we want to present to you this as a token of our appreciation for your presence and then the knowledge and wisdom you've shared with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But I thought you were going to call a beautiful lady to present it. Someone, please come and present it because. Come and help us.
Do you want to speak before you do the presentation?
Thank you so much.
You are indeed a captain. So, class, all too soon, whatever goes up, come down. I have enjoyed this personal journey with Captain Prince Kofi Amoabeng Rtd. And I know you've also learned a lot from it. For the last time, let's give me a round of applause. And Captain, we hope that when we call you another time, you will just give us the audience and come be with us. Thank you and God bless you.